All right, appears to be recording.
All right.
All right, hey everyone, Zongetsu134 here.
And Vault Reviews / Average Joe Squad here.
And welcome to our first episode of our new YouTube channel, Remember the Hyphen. This is the Remember the Hyphen podcast, where we talk about comics, movies, video games, and everything in between.
Sometimes eat food on camera.
Sometimes eat food on camera. That's a staple here at Remember the Hyphen Productions. Formerly Zongetsu134 Productions, but I think, since we're doing this all the time, we should have like our own dedicated podcast channel. And welcome to our first podcast, and we got an interesting thing to talk about here. Why don't you start us off there, since you were the one who had this idea?
Yeah. Well, so as everybody probably knows, if you've seen our Spiderverse review, we really enjoyed Spiderverse. A lot of people obviously did as well, given that it was a Academy Award winner.
Beat out Disney, which is a rare thing. It's rarer than you think that Disney can be won out against in animation. Very few people can actually say that they've won that.
Yeah. So, but
and this is by the same company that made the poop emoji movie.
But yeah, this was something I noticed over time, and I'm sure you did as well. Is that there were people that claimed to be Spider-Man fans, and they don't claim. Yeah, casuals. I'm not even afraid to throw that term out. But anyway, they refuse to watch Spider-Verse because it's an animated movie, and animated movies are for kids. I joke you not. This is a valid argument that I wouldn't even say valid. It's an argument people are using that they don't want to watch Spider-Verse because it's a kid. It's a kid movie.
And to be fair, I agreed to do this because like that's been something that has.
You get salty about it.
I not only do I get salty about it, but it has been affecting the animation industry since it began. And I get it. Walt Disney is known nowadays as an animation studio. And the happiest place on earth, and mostly makes movies that kids enjoy. That used to not be a thing, but it's been something that has ruined like the potential for animation to be loved by everybody, with the exception of television, where you can do stuff like for adults, and like
parody shows like Family Guy
and anime. Like anime is the only other thing in the animation industry that can get away with being for adults. Like King of the Hill is the best anime ever made. In fact, it's Texas anime, as we like to call it.
Is the sub or the dub better?
Oh, I actually, funny you mentioned that. The Japanese actually argue that when they watch King of the Hill.
Oh, I know they do. That's why I mentioned it.
Because they say that subbing is better because you get the voice acting with it to fully. Sub versus dub is something for a whole nother thing. Especially because if I argue sub versus dub,
we're gonna be here a while.
Well, not only that, you would actually probably be surprised at my preference of sub versus dub. And what in the world is that guy doing?
I don't know. Here comes the other truck. Not my problem.
Yeah, we're filming this in my car. So yeah, before we even get into Spider-Verse, I'd like to kind of talk about another animated superhero movie that also had the problem of being an animated film.
Also had a lot of critical acclaim.
Yeah.
Fan favorite, most certainly. Probably one of the biggest fan favorites.
Yeah, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. In fact, it, much like Into the Spider-Verse, is something I argue that it's actually better than any of its live action.
It actually had a theatrical release, too.
It did have a theatrical release, much like Spider-Verse. Didn't do very well. In fact, it barely. I don't even think it made back its budget when it was in theaters.
It definitely made the budget back once they released.
Well, once it hit on home
video.
Because it's one of those, it got on video and it found its market, but too little, too late.
Yeah.
Now to clarify, part of the problem is, especially with Batman Mask of the Phantasm, is it came out in what TV tropes would call the animation age ghetto, which is about from 1960s till about, honestly, the 20-aughts. Basically, television animation became a thing. It was made on the cheap, and it does this thing where it only does 2 frames of animation of 3 per second. You have your Yogi Bears and your Flintstones. I almost said Seinfeld. They're both the same level of humor. Although at least Flintstones has talking animals in it, which makes it funny.
You've upset some people already with that comment, but
I don't.
Neither of us care.
I don't care. I love the Flintstones, but come on, It's not aged. It's
Really
old.
hasn't.
Like, it literally is just the honeymooners, but they're cavemen. But basically, after the 40s and the 50s, when animation was, on film, and it was, I mean, have you seen the Fleischer Superman stuff? Like, it looks amazing. But, when you translate it to TV, you do that, like, every day of the week. You can't get the quality with television. In fact, that's why Disney didn't start doing television animation until, like, the late 80s, early 90s. Because Walt Disney didn't believe that it would ever be as good as film until basically Michael Eisner was like, well, duh. But we're in the business to make money. Like, make this show about about gummy bears because my kids like them. Not even lying. That's why gummy bears got made.
No, I believe it.
But legitimately, Michael Eisner was like, no, my kids really like gummy bears. Could you make a TV show about those?
I entirely believe that.
Granted, the Gummy Bears cartoon is amazing. But so getting back to Batman Mask of the Phantasm, it comes out in a time period where, cartoons are for kids. You have your television blocks, your kids channels, and they're nothing but cartoons.
What, a game where you use your hand? That's a baby's toy.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because, like, when they reviewed, after Batman and Robin came out, Roger Ebert actually went back and reviewed Batman Mask of the Phantasm and talked about how much better it is than the live action stuff. I think they even said that it was better than Batman Forever, which I remember. I think they actually critically praised Batman Forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, Roger Ebert. Well, I hold them dear as film critics because without them I wouldn't be able to do this sort of thing. They also said stuff like video games would never be an art form, and look.
We disproved it. We have Super Mario Brothers the movie.
Why you gotta hurt me like that? But so it comes out, and and partially because of that, I think people gave it a chance because Roger Ebert don't or Siskel and Ebert rather don't just give that sort of thing away, especially to cartoons. Batman Mask of the Phantasm was for its time very expensive. I want to say it was made by TMS, the guys that did the best episodes of that show. And it apparently because it didn't do very well, it bankrupted that show that studio in Japan. I think the last thing they did was an anime called The Big O, which legitimately, if you watch it, it's legitimately what if Batman had a giant robot. Not even kidding.
So it's like Japanese. It's like Spider-Man, where it's what if Spider-Man had a mecha?
Yeah, except they couldn't use Spider-Man, but he's basically a rich dude who has a giant robot named The Big O. But yeah, and to be fair, that's why I hate when I get into the argument. People are like, "What's your best favorite Batman film?" And I'm like, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, like that cartoon, and it's like. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's also a cartoon that has Batman having sex in it in multiple shots. Like, granted, you don't see the sex, but he's clearly had sex with a woman. A gangster murdering someone's father. Several shots of gangsters being murdered by the Phantasm in gruesome, horrifying ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically the same thing that we deal with Spider-Verse. Well, specifically you, because... While I like Spider-Verse, I still hold Spider-Man 2 as the best Spider-Man movie.
And to be fair,
it's highly debatable.
I like The Dark Knight, and I'm not gonna say if you like The Dark Knight, you're wrong. If you think the live action is better, that's fine. I just simply think these two are better because I think they
nail the characters.
They nail the characters. I still hold it that Batman Mask of the Phantasm is one of the best versions of Batman's origin. The only other one that's better is Batman Year One. Not the movie, the book, because the
movie is terrible.
I don't really mind it, but it's a lot of the problems is with the voice acting.
Yeah,
I wish they could have just gotten Kevin Conroy to do it. In fact, that's my same problem with the thing for Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. It's not bad. It's just it has RoboCop as Batman, and he still is acting like RoboCop. That's another that's a big problem I have with how people treat the animation industry as a whole. Let's take another example. You walk into a Blockbuster or back in the day, and you go.
You're looking for communication equipment, right?
Yeah. But you go to the videos, you go to your video store, your DVD store. Like nowadays, like that's not such a like FYE.
That's not a thing.
But
FYE is even going out of business.
Well, we'll use FYE because that's a better example.
It's probably the most thing we have because if you've ever been to an FYE, you know I think most people's image of FYE that went to it back at even like 6-7 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's
just rows and rows and rows of CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays and
it's kind of
not anymore. It's literally turned itself into a hot topic.
Yeah, it's same could be true for video game store stuff too. If I'm being brutally honest, but
GameStop being an example. I mean, they devote a lot of space anymore to collectibles.
But like you go to your FYE or you go to the video section of a Walmart,
the mall.
Or you say that the moles dying out too, but you go somewhere you want to buy DVDs or something, and you know what? Even better. Let's say you have a kid, and you go to the video section, and you go to the aisle with the animation because you're like, well, you know, it's animation. You can get it for kids, and it won't matter. You come to a little movie called Sausage Fest. And you're like, well, it's about a talking hot dog and other talking foods, even though it's Sausage Fest is a reference to the penis.
Another good example would be, and this is a personal one for me.
Yeah.
I was 5 when I saw Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Yeah.
And even the censored one, it's still pretty messed up.
Yeah. Because you know it's such a.
My parents, but I saw the trailer. I told my parents, "Hey, I want this because it's Batman." What did they do? That night, they came back and bought it. They had gone out and bought it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like that's an example. It's like people, as you're saying, people get animated stuff because they think it's for kids, even though there's stuff out there that is definitely not. There is stuff for kids. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Well, the Sausage Fest thing is actually a real life example.
Yeah.
When it went into theaters, and it was made by Seth MacFarlane.
They had to put signs up like this is a rated R movie.
There were people who went into that movie and they saw just maybe a couple seconds of the trailer. Because it was anime, they're like, well, that's for kids. I'm going to go take my kids to see Sausage Fest. Or no, not only that, there's a film that like they put it into a kids like matinee. Because, you know, some movie theaters will have like Sunday matinees where kids can go watch movies.
Yeah.
You know, so basically you can take all the kids and they can be rowdy and stuff and you know, do the kids stuff that they do at movies.
Want to annoy the adults like they do in a normal movie.
You know, because the adults can like wait out there, get some drinks from the bar in the movie theater or whatever. They accidentally popped in a trailer for Sausage Fest. Now, I don't think the guy did it on purpose. I think he just because with
it was just a mistake.
It was just a mistake because they didn't realize that was in the trailer reel. And people lost their minds, and they were telling people that they should remove this because they didn't warn them that this was not for children. Never mind.
It's a rated R movie.
Yeah, the thing is, before trailers, what do you usually see before a trailer comes out? Before a trailer shows it.
This preview is approved for all audiences, rated, and it shows the rating.
Yes. Just because it's animated, you still have to pay attention to the rating. It's like with video games. You get mad when your kid buys an
I don't have
unrated.
to pay attention to my kid. That's your job.
Well,
that's how most parents act anymore, and it's we work in retail, so trust me, we see our fair share of the good and the bad on a daily basis.
But like that's my like when Mask of the Phantasm came out, it was rated PG, and even in the '90s, PG was like
pushing it.
You know, like Transformers, the 1984 movie, was rated PG. That has Optimus being brutally murdered, several Autobots being brutally murdered, several curse words. Like, I'm pretty sure several people learned how to say damn from that, much like the 90s TMNT taught everyone how to say damn.
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene where Ultra Magnus, right before he gets brutally blasted apart, is trying to open the Autobot Matrix of Leadership, and he's like, open. Damn it, open. He says damn it. There's several times where people swear.
And this is a
and again, this is a movie. I mean, great, but like, it was PG. And parents freaked out about it. Like, how dare Optimus Prime die? How dare you have this swearing in this kid's movie? But
it's not a kid's movie.
It's not like, and don't get me wrong. I get like if you're like, well, it's Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. It has a talking cartoon pig.
Not to interrupt, because I know I keep interrupting. Do you think this is the train of thought I'm following? Do you think a lot of it is also rooted in the fact that is like, or like that. This where I'm coming from right now is rooted in this. The long-standing idea for a long time that only has started to go away recently, that if you're into stuff like comic books and Transformers and cartoons and stuff, that it's a childish thing.
Yeah, that's
that you're not supposed to like those because you're an adult.
Yeah, that's what gets me so much. Like yeah, the MCU is a big thing, and like adults enjoy the MCU and stuff now. But you're literally watching dudes in silly costumes fighting other dudes in silly costumes. It's like wrestling. It's like, just because it's live action now does not mean it's no longer for kids.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that stigma's going away because,
like,
as we've discussed multiple times,
stupid.
Growing up, and it's like me and Zach had this conversation. Growing up, I got made fun of a lot for liking Spider-Man.
For me, it was anime, but
for me, it was Spider-Man and Batman and Justice League. I got made fun of for liking this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand why. I'm like,
yeah, meanwhile, everyone else can walk around in their sports jerseys and paint and freak out in baseball games.
It's the same thing. Don't nobody try to argue with me. It's the same thing. Fandom is fandom.
But that's like my biggest thing is like people get freaked out when like an animated movie is made for adults or like heavy metal.
Yeah, heavy metal is awesome. Like, if you've never seen heavy metal and you enjoy some classic rock, fire that movie up. That's a great movie.
If you just want to see some actually decent examples of why rotoscoping actually was kind of good, I would recommend that.
It's got a kick-ass soundtrack.
And here's the thing, like what I was getting to, like for a long time, that would be put in with just the regular cartoons.
That's definitely not a normal cartoon.
I'll give you another example. One that I like, arguably is still kind of probably it was a family film. Watership Down. Have you ever heard of Watership Down?
I actually haven't.
It's a movie about bunny rabbits. So you see bunny rabbits on the covers.
I think I've heard of this.
You see bunny rabbits on the covers. You're like, well, this has got cute little bunnies. This will entertain my kids.
I think I've heard of this.
Except that the bunny rabbits kill each other. There's one where like one bunny rabbit drowns another bunny rabbit in a mud pit.
Didn't Nostalgia Critic do this?
He did talk about Watership Down.
That's probably where I heard it from. Back when I actually watched Channel Awesome before the whole.
Like, there's a scene where a hunting dog brutally disembowels a bunny rabbit on film. Like, that's not a movie I would have a small child watch.
Yeah, that. I remember. I think it was either Nostalgia Critic or somebody else reviewing it. I fired it on. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, Watership Down is.
Because I mean,
it's a good movie.
I'm someone who's watched war movies since I was 5. I've seen my fair share of gore, so I can handle gore. That threw me for such a loop because I was like, I was not really prepared for this.
Real quick, you want something that'll throw you through a loop? Watch Garfield: His 9 Lives, where basically, to make a long story short, Garfield, he talks about his other lives. The current Garfield is on his 8. In one of his lives, he was an animal for science testing, and they injected it with something that allows him to turn into like an actual like dog, and like he brutally murders some like G-men and sneaks away as one of their dogs.
Yeah, it's
like it has like
I know you've shown me a part of that.
Like
Wasn't
I recommend
that the one with
well, that was Garfield Babes and Bullets.
Oh,
that was
originally
else. Although that was originally a part of Garfield His 9 Lives, but the studio execs were like, well, you could probably take this one here and actually make it into a full-fledged short. Garfield Babes and Bullets. Like people talk about how Garfield's so for kids, Bill Murray did Garfield and it was a terrible crappy kids movie.
I like the first one.
I
enjoy the first one.
The first one's
a guilty pleasure.
Not bad, but as someone who reads the comics a lot, it's not.
It's frustrating.
Yeah,
it's like a Peanuts movie.
Well, actually, to be fair, that Peanuts movie actually looked kind of good, but then again, it was in CG. But I don't know. I thought it looked kind of okay, but then again, I don't really watch Peanut stuff anymore unless it's the Christmas special.
I read old Peanut stuff, but that's
but like Garfield, like a lot of people forget before Garfield and Friends, he actually did like a series of shorts. Like, because you've seen the Christmas one, I'm sure, and maybe the Halloween one.
I've seen quite a bit. I used to watch Boomerang a lot as a kid.
But, like, Garfield had, like, 12 specials, and some of them went into dark stuff. Like, the first one, Here Comes Garfield, Odie gets sent to the pound, and he's up for being euthanized. Garfield Babes and Bullets, I showed you that one.
Yeah, we watched it on lunch break at Subway one day.
Yeah, it has Garfield pretending to be a private eye solving a murder. And not just like it's a grisly murder where the dude is drugged and accidentally, because he's drugged, passes out and drives his car off a cliff. He even describes the body being brutally mutilated. He also has a weird obsession with female women, like a sexual attraction with female women. Because like it does the film noir thing where like the woman, the femme fatale, like seductive rich woman is in her bath naked and has her long legs sticking out of the bath. He bangs his secretary at the end of the film.
Yeah, it's definitely...
Oh yeah, that's for kids, right? Because it has the talking cartoon cat in it.
So I think we've established pretty well that this entire belief's really unfounded. So
well, you know what, it gets me because it's all these same people who will defend the MCU against the DCAU or the DCU, and how like just because it's fun doesn't mean it's not serious and mature, will not watch a Spider-Man film. This is the same people who will get on their soapbox and talk about how good Infinity War is and Endgame is, and we're willing to get to watch Endgame enough times to beat James Cameron. Won't watch a Spider-Man film because it's cartoons.
Like how does that make any sense?
Like, you know, and I don't want to sound angry because I try not to be, but this...
I wonder how much of it as well is the whole Marvel versus Sony deal. Because I know there are some people that get really up in arms about that.
I don't doubt it, but you know, what gets me is that like I actually remember
how many people actually know all the backstory of that though.
Well, yeah, true, but like, well, and you say that, but like I remember there were reviews who were like, you know, like this is a lot better than even Marvel's Spider-Man. Like I've seen people who are
sorry, it's more comic accurate.
Who are great MCU fans. Well, not just you, but like other people that
we could do an entire video on our opinions on MCU, Peter. But that'll have to be like another video because I'm not ready for that rant tonight. I would need notes prepared.
But like, you know, like, and especially what gets me about people saying it's just cartoons, they don't see the artistry that goes into animation.
I don't see any difference between like animation and people that actually draw comic books.
Exactly.
Same level of skill required, same level of talent, same level of dedication and time, energy, the whole 9 yards.
Well, like, how about but like people don't understand. Like one of the reasons I love Spiderverse so much isn't just because it's a good film. There's so much artistry in it. Like the fact that like every Spider character is in a different style of animation. Like Spider-Ham is drawn like a Looney Tunes cartoon. He's actually 2D. Like everything else is done with computer drawn. Except Spider-Ham. He is actually hand-drawn.
Looks like
he's in black and white. Penny Parker, when she talks, her lip flaps don't match up to her voice. Because it's a reference to the fact that old anime, you didn't have like digital paint to cover up the lip flaps. Like you couldn't like animate over the lip flaps or slow the lip flaps down. So like sometimes the lip flaps didn't mesh up to what they were saying. Like that, like
example, Miles during the swinging sequence after they steal Octavius's computer.
Well, just real quick before I actually, you know, I'll let you explain, then I'll explain why that's...
When they're swinging, and I never noticed this until it got pointed out, Miles is animated at 12 frames a second during this, and Peter is animated at 22.
Yeah, which is the industry standard.
Which makes it look like Peter's movements are more fluid because he's a more experienced Spider-Man, and Miles is more slow and clumsy and less experienced.
And in fact, in most of his fights, he's actually is in that half frame. Like
he only gets to the full 22 when he actually
once he dons his actual Spider-Man costume. It's such a great little thing, and I know a lot of people will go into that, looking at that, but like that's one of the things I love about it. Like they do artistry stuff like that. Like that stuff you like. Another thing that they did was
stuff looking like it's a comic book. Like
the
blurred lines and stuff.
The dots from
which we actually brought up when we went and saw it. I actually mentioned that it took a while for my eyes to adjust because it was actually hurting my eyes.
Which
first.
I will admit that's a common complaint about the first couple minutes of Into the Spider-Verse. But I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that you're watching it on like a screen, and I also kind of wonder if this movie was originally supposed to be made in 3D, like for 3D.
It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if that
we can go into a whole thing about stupid movie. About stupid gimmicks for film and comics.
You're telling me Spy Kids 3D wasn't a great film?
Look, man, I know my stuff. I bought like 4 issues of Superman number 75 where he died. They were all bound in the plastic. They come with the little obituary in there. The black arm, man, I had all of it. I was going to put me through college.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
Not very well. Especially because you couldn't find
the comic that killed the comic book industry.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That could literally be an entire series.
I would not mind talking about gimmicks, but about gimmicks with film and just in general. But like, you know, but like again, and people are just willing to brush off this artistry because it's a kids movie, because it's cartoon. It's cartoon. It means it's for children. You know, like, because that was, like, a thing with, like, Jim Henson, too. Like, a lot of people don't know about Jim Henson. Is like, he did not want to be known as a kid's puppet entertainer. He didn't want to be Captain Kangaroo. You know, that's why he did stuff like The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. And, like, a lot of the more dark stuff he would do with the Muppets. Because he did not want to be known as the guy that does kids' puppet stuff. Granted, he also did Sesame Street. And to be honest, a lot of people argue that Sesame Street's kind of one of the reasons why Jim Henson never got as much notoriety. And don't you dare say Muppet Babies, because Muppet Babies actually made him money. He actually would have defended Muppet Babies before he died, because, like, it was what made him money, so that he could do other projects. But, like, you know, it just frustrates me is what is all, really. Like Batman Mask of the Phantasm, like, has such great, like, artistry to it, too. Like, the fact...
Great writing and just all around.
Like another thing that, like, people will complain about with that movie is, like, well, it didn't really have, like is actually the screenplay. Like, well, it didn't really have a villain. There was no real focus to it. And I'm like, but superhero stuff doesn't need to always have, like, a villain, like an actual villain. Sometimes it's just dealing with the character's life. Like, Iron Man Demon in a Bottle, where... Yes, he fights villains, but the bigger part of that story is him dealing with his alcoholism.
What about the episode of Teen Titans where Robin has the PTSD flashbacks of Slade?
Oh yeah, where, like, he keeps seeing Slade everywhere and thinks that Slade is actually still alive. Yeah, no, that was a laugh riot.
That one as soon as you mentioned that one instantly came to mind. Like,
where, like, you know, like he almost kills his friends because of that. Or the episode where Beast Boy he starts mutating into this weird monster and he accidentally hurts Raven. And, like, while they're talking about, like, how Beast Boy's cellular structure is breaking down and all he's worried about is what he did to Raven while he was a monster.
The whole Terra.
Oh, the whole Terra thing. Oh my god, yeah.
Which is utterly depressing.
Well, it's at least less depressing than the actual Judas Contract story that it's based on.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because then we don't have pedophile Deathstroke. Another movie that I think, I get a lot of laughs and it's kitty fair.
Space Jam.
I mean, I'm not saying animation isn't for children. Akira. You know, the 1980s Japanese, like, anime that is about, like, you know, Tokyo imperialism and teens becoming, like, you know, like, in gangs and, like, one of them becoming a giant mutant monster that nearly destroys the entirety of Tokyo. Yeah, I got lots of chuckles out of that.
There's a more recent example. There's a series on Netflix. I believe it's called The Life of Robots or something. It's a series of shorts, and my buddy Brian showed it to me. Dude, all of those are dark.
I'll watch that sometime.
I'm talking totally dark.
Up. How about Pixar's Up?
What, with its horribly depressing intro?
Yeah, the first 20 minutes where we watch this happy married couple until one of them dies. Or how, like, it's all about this old man trying to, like, fulfill his wife's one last wish. Yeah, I got a lot of chuckles out of that. Oh, but it's because it has a little Boy Scout kid who makes little funny jokes and the dog. And
Oliver and Company.
Oh, yeah, Oliver and Company.
Which is an adaptation of Oliver Twist.
Yeah, which, like, you know, has kidnapping and... The Secret of Nim. About...
Which I've never seen.
Oh, I actually recommend it because it's one of the few...
What about Fern Gully?
Well, Fern Gully I have issues with because that's clearly, like, a PSA.
Yeah.
I'm not a very big fan of Fern Gully, but, like, actually, you know what? The 90s, like, PSA cartoons about saving the environment and how awful man is. Once Upon a Forest, where like half the forest creatures die, and it's all about trying to get a medicine for this little girl who's dying of a nerve toxin.
South Park.
Well,
all South Park is meant.
I don't think there's anyone who like Simpsons and South Park. I don't think there's anyone who won't deny that that's for adults. I'm mostly going with stuff that I think should be enjoyed by a general audience, not just kids.
I'm trying to think of some ones.
But getting back to Secret of NIMH, I love Secret of NIMH. It's about a single mom trying to save her kids. The whole premise of Secret of NIMH. Oh, not only that, it's about animal testing again. See, the Secret of NIMH, which is also known as the National Institute for Mental Health, is that they experimented on rats and mice to make them human intelligent and also age like humans. And they escape because they're tired of being cruelly tested on, and half of them die. And the main character, Mrs. Brisby, is not one of those mice. In fact, her husband is Timothy. I forget what Jonathan. Her husband's name is Jonathan Brisby. He taught her how to read because she's a mouse, but she can't read very well because she's not nearly as super intelligent as these mice and rats. He dies drugging the farmer's cat of this farm they're in because they're siphoning electricity from the farmer's house so that they can make their own society. And it's got all this stuff about what should we do with this great power that we have been given by the rats of NIMH. Meanwhile, poor Mrs. Brisby, her son is very deathly sick, and he needs to stay in bed and recover. But the problem is, it's coming up to be harvesting time, and they need to try and move out of the field that they're in because the farmer's gonna plow it and stuff. And she can't move him, so she goes to the rats in a desperate attempt to save her children. Oh, and there's also a scene where her whole house nearly and her son that's sick nearly drowns in the mud. Yeah, no, that's real funny, real kid-friendly stuff. I mean, granted, you should still watch Secret of NIMH because it's really good. And I also think that Mrs. Brisby is better than any female character that James Cameron has ever made, except for Ripley.
Do you remember the Xena Hercules movie?
Oh yeah, I remember that movie. It's kind of a bore fest, though.
It really is. They had to censor that so bad.
Well, yeah,
I'm trying to think of anything.
And probably
else.
because it is animated. That was probably one of the bigger reasons why it was censored so heavily, because animation has
same deal with Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. After the Columbine thing, they had to tone that down.
Although that was knee jerk for me, but at the same time, I understand that one a little bit more. Batman the Animated Series itself is had a heavy censorship thing.
Spider-Man TAS.
Like the cops have laser guns.
X-Men TAS. Wolverine can't use his claws on anybody.
The Batman, they're allowed to throw more hits, like kung fu martial arts stuff. The cops can't use bullets. They have to use these weird little taser pellets. Because cops are known for using non-lethal force.
Yeah. It's a very interesting topic, just because like I mentioned earlier, I feel a lot of it is derived is a source of derivation from people feeling that you can't like this or you can't like that because it's meant for children.
There is a lot of that, and part of the other problem, again, going back to the animation age ghetto, in the 60s and stuff, most of the cartoon characters were actually mascots for cereal that you would see on TV shows. You remember Post Sugar Crisps and how they used to have a bear?
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Bear was actually a cartoon character on the show called Linus the Lionhearted. And they all were cereal mascots, and they all did their own cartoons and shorts and stuff before they became commercials.
I think Hanna-Barbera was really the first to kind of change that.
Hanna, yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no.
Because
some episodes of Scooby-Doo are clearly terrifying.
You mean the Astro Ghost?
Yeah, that
or the Kooky
Zombie
Space
Island,
Ghost,
which is I still maintain.
Yeah, but
that's not a movie for kids because that movie is not rated and there's a lot of violence in that.
Yeah, but that's Hanna-Barbera in the 90s when they're trying to kind of get past the stigma that comes with Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Because remember they did Yogi Bear and Flintstones,
Wacky Races, and Josie and the Pussycats.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that children's...
Was Josie and the Pussycats Hanna-Barbera?
Yeah, Josie.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But they're owned by Archie.
Yeah, I know. It's an Archie character.
Because
I was wondering who was behind the cartoon.
Because originally I think Hanna-Barbera did the Archie show back in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know the song Sugar?
Sugar.
That's actually by the Archies because they were originally a band.
And that's an interesting little bit of timepiece in itself. I won't go into too much detail, but you could if you bought the cereal, you could literally get a record because they had a record, and literally what it was is you would cut it out from the box, and it would play. Mm-hmm. Because that was a thing back then that you could do that. Not very many of those have ever survived.
I wish I lived in a time when the Batman 1989 movie came out, because it came with a sweet Batman coin bank that like was literally like sealed, like it was sealed in like cellophane. Literally, they had to vacuum seal the cereal box with the thing. Man, I miss when cereals used to do cool stuff like that.
Or like the first Raimi film, the web shooter squirt gun things.
Oh yeah, man, I had so many submarines from cereal boxes. I can't tell you.
I had an Atlantis one.
Oh man, yeah.
Like when Atlantis, it was Rice Krispies. It was Atlantis.
There's a one that like
Atlantis, right? It's the Lost Empire.
Yeah, there's a movie that like again like didn't do
more
very
so
well.
the first one than the second one, because the second one was a bombed pilot for a TV show.
There are so many Disney direct-to-video sequels that are literally just, let's take the pilot episodes we have of this TV show and just smush it together because we're not making a TV show. I
think 101 Dalmatians had a sequel that was like that, but it literally was a lead-in to the TV show that actually got made.
Actually, the 101 Dalmatians one is kind of weird because it's not really a lead into that TV show, because that TV show is more based on the live action series. Actually, let's go into that. Was another little topic I want to talk about.
Are we going to talk about 101 Dalmatians live action? Because nobody
actually
talks
no.
about
I was going to talk about how like all these grown-ups wanted to go see a more serious, dark version of The Lion King just because they made it CG.
And it's
Are
not
you
that
kidding
good.
me? Well,
it's the same movie.
It literally is a shot-for-shot remake.
There were people that are like, I don't want any spoilers. It's like, it's been out for 25 years. There's no spoilers. It's the same movie.
Like, I've even seen like comparisons where like you know the scene where the wildebeest stampede, where they show Simba's reaction, and the 2D looks really great. Like, you can see the fear on his face from the stampede. You look at the CG Simba.
It looks like a lion.
He looks like a lion. Because you can't get the really great facial expressions on CG because it looks scary.
I'm sure some will defend it, and I'm not hating on it.
I mean, I kind of am. But
I'm not hating on it, and it's just like that's the last I'm going to say about it, because it's like I don't intend to see it because I'm not interested. But if I want to watch Lion King, I'm going to watch the animated one because that's the actual movie.
But like Aladdin live action, Beauty and the Beast live action, Maleficent. Why is it suddenly
Mulan actually looks like it'll be okay.
Like I think Mulan, especially because like they have a lot of issues with the race stuff with Mulan, and I at least with the original. Not that I'm saying I have those problems, but I know that that's a big thing about why they're doing. Do you have a problem
with Donny Osmond being the voice of the one guy in the movie?
Oh, well, I mean, no more than I do Eddie Murphy as Mushu.
Yeah.
Which apparently he's not gonna they're not gonna do Mushu, which I'm like, fine. I mean, I like he's supposed to be like a guardian spirit.
He's the comic relief character, so.
I mean to be fair, like as long as they keep the cricket in, because I love that little cricket.
Yeah.
Like that cricket was cute. I don't care what anyone says. That was a cute little thing, and I wish he was just the mascot character. But like, why is it suddenly less adult or less kiddie just because you're doing it in live action? You're still watching a movie about a fairy tale. Beauty and the Beast, a fairy tale. Aladdin, one of the 1001 Nights, which are mostly fairy tales, and to be fair, Aladdin was actually made by a French dude who added it into 1001 Nights. But like, and don't get me wrong, I nothing against Will Smith, because I hear he's like one of the best parts of that Aladdin.
No, and I totally believe that.
But like, you're gonna tell me that he can be nearly as fun and as Robin Williams' performance or the animation they did to the genie? Like, you can't do nearly as much stuff with the genie as you can do in animation. Like, animation is great because you don't have...
CG's not even at that level yet.
Like that's one of the things I love about animation. Like even computer-generated animation. Like the more cartoony stuff.
CG,
like say Shrek or like...
You can only do so much for the computer, whereas
yeah.
Pen and paper, limitless, because it's what you can draw.
Well, and the other problem is, like, we're not at the point where CG can be cartoony. Like, like unfortunately cartoony
The
CGI.
wave of cartoon CGI is so utterly.
Well, actually, I
don't
say
like-
that, but to be fair,
Some of them look good.
Like
I've
the-
seen a lot that look really, really bad.
But like the remake of Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. Have you seen any like the animations of that? That looks really good, and it looks just as zany and cartoony as like the original the games. And those were like, with
I'll
polygons. And
I'll
I
actually
think
defend the Spider-Man the new animated series, the MTV one. I'll actually defend that, even though that was dated when it came out.
But like, or Beast Wars. I love Beast Wars, and they actually could do some fun cartoony stuff, and it didn't like. Granted, that animation has not aged well either, but I mean that was early '90s CG, and it was made by a Canadian company on a shoestring budget.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like you can't remake that now because it'll all be CG and it won't be nearly as good.
Yeah, that would be hard
Like
to
that
sit through.
I
I don't think they could remake it because there's jokes in that would not fly nowadays.
Well, then, like I don't know how you could even do that. Although I have seen the comics that were made based on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and there's some pretty dark stuff in it. Like it goes like how like Roger now has to do television animation and he barely moves, which I get the allegory because it's the allegory for like more modern, well at the time, animation for television. But at the same time, I'm like, but cartoon characters are actually real. You don't even need to pay anyone to animate it because they literally you just film them on the screen. But that's more because I'm like, I fail to see your point. I mean, I get the point, but at the same time, I'm like, but these cartoon characters are actually real.
Yeah,
But like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like it's the only movie where you're gonna see Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse on screen, and it's such a great work of art. Like the amount of care they put into it so that Bob Hoskins actually looks like he's interacting with a cartoon rabbit.
Yeah.
And I know there are some people who will be like, well, that's technically a live action with animation. And I'm like, it's still about the golden age of animation, guys. It's about like all those jokes like when Roger can't make he's like, it's supposed to be birds that come out of your head, not stars. Look, I can do birds. I can do it. Come on. Or the scene where he's watching, like the dude's watching the reels. He's like, no, you gotta wait for the anvil to fall on his head after he sees the anvil. Right away, TC. There's so much good jokes in that, and we wouldn't have it without the golden age of animation. Like, you know how long it took Warner Brothers to release some of their more like messed up cartoons, like the Tom and Jerry stuff with like the clearly black stereotype owner in them, or the blackface stuff in general.
Disney still hasn't released Song of the South.
Oh, Disney's never gonna do that.
They've come close a couple times, but they always chicken out.
Well, which is weird because I don't
That's what I find weird is that Warner Brothers has done that with some of their cartoons, and yet they still haven't. Because Warner Brothers owns DC.
Yeah.
They still have never re-released Shazam and the Monster Society of Evil. The original one. With all the World War II one.
Oh, you mean like the early
one.
Shazam stuff? Yeah, no, because there's a
lot of racial stereotypes.
Which is weird because they'll release the Iron Man stuff, and like the Mandarin's clearly a Japanese Chinese stereotype, like with buck teeth and yellow skin.
The black stereotypes and
that's another
the original
reason why
Captain Marvel. It's awkward to even read it. I'm like, because I own some of those, and I'm just like, this is so awkward to read.
That's another thing. Like, how is it we still think cartoons are for kids, yet we'll plop kids down in front of Looney Tunes and it'll have some really violent and I'm not saying the cartoon. I'm like references to death, or
it's curtains for you.
Well, you remember Batman Beyond when Ace is watching that, you know what happens in that Bugs Bunny cartoon? He tricks the dog into shooting himself. He tricks the dog into suicide.
I don't deserve to live. Oh.
It's not just cartoony he plays the piano and he makes it blow up.
They censored that in the normal version of Batman.
Yeah, because no one wants
Joker.
Because it's so depressing. Who wants to watch this Bugs Bunny trick a dog into shooting himself? I don't.
It's like,
I don't even like watching that cartoon because I'm like, no, I don't want to watch the poor dog think he has to shoot himself. Oh, how about that one Looney Tunes cartoon where the big bulldog has that little kitten he's trying to hide from his owner because he thinks the owner won't let him keep it, and he thinks that the kitten accidentally
Oh my
got
God.
baked into an oven.
That thing upsets me. Don't mention that cartoon. Like, I'm being legit. That one actually upsets me.
No, that like I won't. But like.
That's not for kids. Even as a kid, that upset me.
I'm 29 years old, and even I'm like, I don't think I should be watching this. I need to be like a 50-year-old grown-up to watch this.
And I mean, you can ask him. I laugh at some pretty dark crap.
I mean, you're
probably
also
some stuff that I probably shouldn't laugh at.
I mean, I'm an animal person, but like.
But I'm also a historian, so like.
And you're also a cat guy, so I understand why that one hurts you. I mean, granted, I love cats. I'm not saying I wanted to watch cats get hurt, unless it's Sylvester and Tom.
But like, it's like I've shown him some memes regarding World War II that, in all honesty, I shouldn't laugh at. But at the same time, I'm like, look, I'm a historian, and I'm so used to this.
Yeah, like
that I have to laugh.
It's just a reaction, so you're not like bogged down by the immense darkness of the thing you're studying.
It's like the joke I shared with a coworker.
Oh, how about
what if World War I and II were bar fights?
Oh yeah, I've actually seen that, and that
those are funny.
Granted, they also don't bring up like the genocides and stuff, but like at least
they mention like the nuclear bombings as America dropping a piano on Japan from the second story balcony
twice.
Yeah, twice.
But like
is it dark? Yeah. Is it bad? Yeah. It's kind of funny though.
But it's also important. It's also important for us to talk about. Like that's one of the reasons why I love the Warner Brothers releases of like the
with the little forward
that says, you know, like we release this not just because like
to not release them would be the same as denying the history.
Like, you know, and like the Tom and Jerry stuff, like Whoopi Goldberg actually, like, and like some of the earlier packages would actually come on screen and be like, you know, you're gonna see some racial insensitivity. This does not reflect the current company. This is simply, we have this all here because you want everything. You got to take the good with the bad. You know, like, and to be fair, like with Disney's Song of the South, the most racially insensitive thing
is the Tar Baby
is the Tar Baby thing in the Brer Rabbit sketch, which I don't know why that, but like I think that came out in like the 70s or like the 60s.
It came out, I think.
You know, like not to be this guy, but like there's an episode of Doctor Who from like the black and white era.
It came out earlier than that. I think it was the 50s when it came out. It was either the 50s. I
honestly can't remember because I've only ever seen the VHS release of it, which was in the 80s.
Yeah, it's older than that.
So
I don't know offhand, but it's older than that.
Most of the stuff it talks about is like is restoration. It's taking place after the Civil
Reconstruction,
War.
I mean.
Or Reconstruction. I don't know why I always call it the Restoration.
It's an easy mistake to make.
Reconstruction.
I'm a historian, so.
But like it's, you know, and yes, he's called Uncle Tom. But
it's a reference to Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah, like it's just talking about like it's talking about the slow moving racial relations.
There's always this stuff about, well, Song of the South is this really racist depiction of Reconstruction era South, and how dare Disney do this? I've watched it.
It's not
the
really
Tar Baby thing is really the only offensive thing in it.
Honestly,
other than that, it's actually really boring.
Although I will admit the Brer Rabbit cartoon is actually really good because it's very accurate to the Brer Rabbit myth.
The most anybody knows of it anymore is Zippity Doo-Dah.
Well, that and Splash Mountain, because Splash Mountain is legitimately the story of Brer Rabbit. Like at the end when you go down the thing, you hear Brer Rabbit go, "Whatever you do, I could stand being boiled in that pot, but don't you dare throw me into that briar patch," and then you go down it. In fact, Bugs Bunny actually referenced that in the Arabian Night movie they made, where they just repackaged a bunch of old Looney Tunes shorts.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, like, I could handle getting my head cut off or boiled in oil, but whatever you do, don't throw me into that rabbit hole. I don't want to even be thrown into that rabbit hole. And of course, Yosemite Sam like lets him legitimately fall into that rabbit hole because Bugs Bunny, you know, took his idea from Brer Rabbit. But yeah, again, like Disney was always known for being again safe for kids, isn't that right? Aristocats,
yeah,
or Lady and the Tramp with your depiction of the cats as Chinese stereotypes.
That's another one that's like, watching that recently is awkward.
Like, oh yeah, no, Aristocats especially because I used to love that movie a lot when I was a kid.
When I was in college, we had a lot of foreign exchange students. I came down to do
boy.
dinner one night, and I joke you not, they were all watching Aristocats, and I guess they had never seen it, and it got to that part.
Oh, they got to the part where
I literally was like, I hurried up. I'm like, I want to get out of here because I don't feel comfortable.
I can imagine.
I was like, I don't feel comfortable.
Or did you get out of there before that hit? Or
I got out of there just before that hit. I knew that was coming because I've seen that movie so many times. I'm like, I want out of this room, and I want out of this room now.
That's not a... But, like, you know, like, we always complain about how cartoons are for kids, and yet anime always gets censored. Like, Sailor Moon, I don't know how if you know a lot of the controversies from the editing.
No.
So, two of the outer senshis, Uranus and Neptune, in the dub, are cousins. Because they hang out together. Uranus actually dresses up like a man to, like, hide... Well, to be fair, she's also, like, in the manga, she's actually, like, a transgender character because she kind of doesn't mind being a man or a woman.
Yeah.
In the original Japanese, Uranus and Neptune are lesbians.
Yeah, I can see why that got changed over here, especially in the time period where it came out.
Except that it kind of makes it worse because they still have, you know, shots of, like, Neptune, like, resting on, like, Uranus's chest. You ever do that with a cousin, Colton?
No.
You ever get real...
Dude, I don't even like being seen in the same vicinity as my cousins, usually.
Yeah! Apparently, Sailor Moon takes place in Alabama. Because, trust me, as someone who's watched Sailor Moon with females in college, I made jokes. I'm like, oh, this takes place in Alabama because apparently Neptune and Uranus are kissing cousins.
Yeah.
But, like, again, like, anime has all these standards where it has to be heavily censored. You know, if it references religion, alcohol, sex, it has to be censored for kids. But yet we still, we still have, like, some of these really poor choices that are made for children's anime. I think I've talked about this with you before about, like, One Piece. One Piece is about pirates. So what do you think of when you think of pirates?
Guns,
swords, pillaging. And yet 4Kids was like, well, this seems like a thing for children in the Saturday morning lineup. Like, the amounts of edits, which I'm not going to go into here, but, like, there's a scene where a character gets held at gunpoint with a gun pointed to his head. They changed that gun to a weird mallet that's spring-loaded.
We could do an entire video on just bad editing.
Like, I thought we could do one where we talk about, like, different edits of movies.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Like, we could talk about the Phantom edit.
Yeah, we've been going for about 52 minutes now, I suppose. Do you want to try to wrap that up?
We could try wrapping up. Honestly,
there's so much you can say about it, and so many examples of why stuff's not for kids.
Like, and to be fair, I don't even have a way of, like, really fixing how, like, you could portray animation better, and that's the
really
problem.
The same deal as society and popular culture looking at things like comic books and superheroes and stuff, and just having a generally negative connotation to those if you like those things, which obviously the MCU and the success of stuff like Spider-Man, the Raimi films, the Dark Knight movies, those had a lot to do with kind of making it's more, I don't exaggerate when I say it's more accepting now to like those things and be open about it than it used to be. There's still a lot of stigma attached to it because of just how long that stigma was there. But it's lessened a lot recently. I would say like the last 4 years or so. It's really lessened.
Thankfully, thanks to to streaming and stuff, where you can, like, better, like, prevent kids from seeing stuff they're not supposed to before they're old enough or, you know, capable of. Anime has gotten away from that stigma a lot. You know, like there's not a lot of the draconian censorship issues that, like, it had, and people always will tell me that the 90s is the best time for animation. I'm like, except that there's not, because the heavy amount of censoring was not really stopped until like the early 20-aughts, and in my opinion, that's when animation did way better. I mean, yeah, you had the problem with Flash animation being a thing, which is kind of led to another animation age ghetto, but like, you were allowed to get away with a lot more stuff. Like, Steven Universe has openly lesbian characters in it. In fact, they had a lesbian wedding on Steven Universe. You couldn't have done that in the 90s.
10 years ago, you couldn't have done that.
You couldn't have done that. Like, they're not the Will and, as I like to call them, the Will and grace homosexuals.
Notice that Kate Kane is not anywhere in any DC animated stuff until
recently. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair,
she's a more recent.
Yeah,
creation.
like I mean, well, yes and no with her creation stuff. Since she was created originally in the 50s to prove that Batman and Robin were gay.
Yeah, it's obviously that's a whole nother topic.
I guarantee you there was like Gail Simone, because I think Gail Simone helped create modern Batwoman. Was like, oh, she was to help prevent Batman and Robin from being gay. Sounds like I need to make Batwoman gay. And to be fair, she's awesome.
Yeah, Gail Simone's her run with Red Sonja is amazing.
Well, that and just Batwoman's awesome in the comics.
Plus, she runs the Women in the Fridge website.
Also, she made Renee Montoya a lesbian, which again, she's awesome. And to be fair, the best ship with Batwoman is Renee. Batwoman Renee for life.
I mean, you're talking to someone who ships MJ and Gwen, so.
Well, she has two hands.
I actually found an amusing panel the other day. It was, it's an inside joke.
Yeah, between the two of us.
I actually found a panel the other day. I was doing icons for role-playing stuff on Tumblr, and I found this thing where it's Gwen and Peter about to go on a date, and MJ's there, and MJ's like, if you're going to be that groovy, maybe you deserve Mary Jane. And Gwen's like, when do you want him, dear? Before or after I rip your hair out? I'm just like, Jesus.
Oh, no, her and Gwen used to fight. Like, they are best friends, but...
Best friends fight.
Why?
Especially when they like the same guy.
Oh, yeah. You know, I guess really the biggest way to fix it is just to, like...
More open mind, but I don't even know if that's plausible, because there are some people that it's so deeply ingrained into them, the idea that cartoons are for kids.
And it's so frustrating to me, because, like, Spiderverse needs to do well, because, like, they want to make sequels, they want to make TV shows, like, and stuff that I want, because this movie was so good, I want more. I don't want it to fail, because here's the thing with animation. If it fails, it's very hard to make new stuff, and with this, I'm afraid that they're going to go to, like, DVD only. And while I love a lot of the DCAU stuff, a lot of it ain't exactly animated at top-notch quality.
Because the budget for a straight-to-video release is a lot less than a theatrical.
And you can't do, different animation styles on a direct-to-DVD budget. And people are always like, well, Netflix pick it up. I'm like, yeah, but Netflix can't just give their money away all the time. For every Castlevania, there's Neo Yokio. I don't know. I guess my thing is, if I could at least reach somebody who's not
give it a chance.
Give animation a chance.
Give it a chance.
Just because you see sugary kid stuff doesn't mean you can't pick out just because the cereal aisle is full of Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Pebbles, there's still Special K if you want grown-up stuff. Or Koshik, or whatever it is adults eat for cereal.
One last final thing I want to interject. I actually thought about this just a minute ago. When I got back into superhero stuff, I actually, watching it around my house, I actually got, a fair amount of, embarrassment from doing it. I was almost like watching it was something I'm like, I felt like I'm like, maybe I shouldn't watch this, because it's cartoon.
Yeah.
It's and that's the thing is, I think that's what's damaging mostly about it, is that kind of stuff can spread very easily.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, everybody asks, why was racism so rampant in the 50s and the 60s? Because people were brought up believing that kind of stuff, and once that stuff gets ingrained, and it gets ingrained at a young age, it's hard to get rid of it.
I know, I think there's a lot of that, especially if you're male, because girls.
John, you gotta be a man now. You gotta like football and beer, and mowing the lawn, and wearing jorks.
Jorks. But I guess all I can say is just try to be open-minded when you watch something, or if people tell you this cartoon is And I know, there's probably examples of that. That's all that you can say. Also had some not so great things about it, MLP, Friendship is Magic. Although I'm someone who finds that
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Although I'm someone who sees MLP as it has some decent decently decently themes that like a grown-up could enjoy of it. I kind of consider it more like a cupcake or like a decent snack food, like a healthy snack food instead of like a bad snack food.
Spectacular Spider-Man.
Spectacular Spider-Man is great, and I don't care who says so. And I'm sorry that I never watched that all the way, but I didn't have Kids WB when it came out.
I can loan you the first season. I
actually have it on DVD.
I have the complete series on Blu-ray.
I have the whole thing somewhere.
But yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground with this, and just we brought in like, why is it a belief that's not really founded on much, why that belief is still prevalent with a lot of stuff, and just I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, honestly, my biggest complaint with the whole thing is just because, like, for all these people that are in the MC who love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and will defend, from people who say it's kids fair or like it's not really as serious as like the Nolan Bat films. We got to wrap this up because the battery's getting low. But like,
we're killing my phone battery.
But in summary, if you enjoy the MCU, but you think Spider-Verse is too kiddie because it's animation, I frankly deem you a hypocrite. And I think it's unfair to demonize animation just because for a long time it was only for kids, much like comic books and superhero movies in general is my biggest complaint about that sort of thing. So, but anyway, guys, I think this is probably a bit more of a downer first episode for our podcast, but we have the Raimi one that I'm gonna probably send your guys' way just because we were much more positive about that.
We're gonna talk about Spider-Man Reign.
No, we're never doing that. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for Remember the Hyphen podcast, episode 1. I hope you tune in again when we finally make a episode 2. So until then, guys, we're Remember the Hyphen. Remember the Hyphen. Remember us. Take care.